Thank you for staying with us. Today is also recognized by the UN as World Down Syndrome Day. And joining us to talk about World Down Syndrome Day and the initiatives of the Down Syndrome Network of Trinidad and Tobago is Lisa Ghani, Chairman of Events and Sponsorship at the Down Syndrome Family Network. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning and happy World Down Syndrome Day to everyone.
Thank
So
you.
happy to be able to join you this morning.
Yes, so we're going to get into the network. Tell us about the Down Syndrome Family Network. How did that come about and the work that you're doing?
The Down Syndrome Family Network was formed 11 years ago
Okay.
by Glenn Niles and a group of parents and myself. And it was at a time when we thought that there was no real representation for persons with Down syndrome. And there was a need, by families and people in the community to have a network where they could share experiences and that they could find out information that would really help and benefit their children. And so that was the basis and genesis of the network at that time. And of course, as we grew, it became very obvious that, one of the main things that we had to do was also to look at advocacy and also looking at things that could happen for change in our society, especially where human rights of persons with disabilities is concerned.
Right. In terms of that educational aspect and, educating the public on Down syndrome, what are some of the misconceptions that we still possess today that, the group is working towards eradicating?
Well, I think the first thing is, that people have to presume competence. A lot of times we look at persons with disabilities and we think that they cannot do something.
Okay.
So, we have to remove that word cannot because everyone has potential. It's just how we unlock that potential and how we provide them with the opportunities to be able to achieve their full potential. Some of us, all of us, no matter whether we have a disability or not, have to be provided with the right environment and the right tools to be able to help us to grow and to learn and to achieve things, So
Yes.
with children with disabilities, it just means that we have to open new doors of how we teach and, how we make things accessible to them as well.
Now, the theme for this year is with us, not for us. So tell us the significance of that theme. And I know you were speaking about that just now.
Yes. So every year, the United Nations, because it was kind of coincidental that when the network was formed, it was the same year that the United Nations actually declared World Down Syndrome Day.
Okay.
So World Down Syndrome Day is celebrated, of course, on the 21st of March every year internationally. And internationally, through the UN, they choose a theme. And we, of course, are affiliated to the international organizations like Down Syndrome International and the National Down Syndrome Congress of America,
Okay.
where we celebrate the international theme as well as at our conference. So this year, they chose with us, not for us. And in particular, they are looking at, legal capacity and supported assistance for persons with disabilities where necessary to help them make decisions that might impact them, from a legal perspective. Because, of course, again, it comes back to the human rights
Yes.
that even if you have a disability, it doesn't mean that you cannot own property, that you cannot be married, that you cannot engage in a contract, but you need to understand and have support to be able to make the right decisions.
And in terms of locally, what does that support look like? What do we need to do to have such legislation in place?
Well, that's the big question, really. And as you may already know, we have a policy, a national policy on
Yes.
disability, but we really do not have legislation. The Equal Opportunities Act also has policy with regards to employment and equal opportunities for persons with disabilities. But we have really been working, assiduously to engage with government and the persons with the political power to be able to enact laws and really protect the rights of persons with disabilities, and also
Right.
make it so that it's not, it's not that you're feeling good this morning and you say, well, okay, maybe I should employ somebody with a disability, or this is their right. So
Yes.
when we put these things in place, it just gives them the legal standing to be able to demand better for themselves.
Yes. Speaking about that, in terms of I guess the thinking towards, employing someone with Down syndrome, or how we treat persons with Down syndrome, and we look at, lots of socks.
Yes.
And so, persons, there's some people who may know what it means, the meaning behind it. But talk to us
Correct.
about the support that is needed beyond just the visual, which is, getting the colorful socks and, displaying it. Talk to us about the core of it.
Yes, well, I think Lots of Socks again is an international campaign
Yes.
that we adopted some years ago, really to bring awareness to Down syndrome, because before we could act, we have to be aware.
Yes.
If you say that you don't know, well, then you have an excuse. But now, after doing this for 10 years, it has become, I like to say, it has become a national event, because we really have everybody on board taking part in the activity. But as you said, we have to make sure that we don't lose focus
Yes.
on the fun part of it and not really understand why we do it. So especially when we go to schools and offices, we try to combine the pop-up shops with a lecture or a presentation where we can talk about the disabilities, talk about what we're doing with regards to advocacy, and how that school or organization can support a person with a disability within their environment. So, of
Right.
course, a lot of principals today are doing activities in their schools which involve like assemblies, or we also have a package that we give to the schools that describes activities that you can do leading up to Down Syndrome Day, which might be a project with a class where they look into it, or they actually engage with someone in their community who has a disability and ask them to do a talk about their life or their life story, where the children can learn. Because I think, again, we always say the future is in the hands of our children. And when they learn from a very early age to accept a person who's different to them, then it becomes normal, and it no longer is this person is different. They're engaged. And we've seen it happen in schools where, persons with Down syndrome have been integrated into the classroom environment, and now are just, they walk around the school just like any other child. It's not a big thing or a big deal.
Yes.
So really and truly, we can do it on the level of the school. And then, of course, with employers, what we found now is when we go in and we have these conversations and we share a lot of information, because this is happening globally, so we don't need to recreate the wheel. We share with them the best practices and what they can do, because a lot of organizations, they talk of inclusion and diversity. And of course, persons with disabilities are one of the diversity groups.
Yes.
And we have seen employers now coming on board who want to employ persons with a disability. Now, that leads us to the next thing, that, if an employer wants to employ a person with a disability, that person with a disability also has to have the skills.
Yes.
And have to have the academics, whether it is, to meet the job that they have to do. So how, it goes back again to education. And we say, if you're not educated, you can't be integrated.
Yes, correct.
So really and truly, we want to really reach out to our ministers of education and our politicians and government people who have that power to really make the changes in our society, to move forward with us on this. We have seen them come on board and speak with us and engage in conversations, but we want to push a little more. We want to push a little more because the time is now.
Yes. Understood. Tell us about the outreach work and the conference that's coming up, as well as Fashion with Us. Give us details on both events.
Okay. Well, in just about an hour and a half, we're going to start our conference here at the Hyatt.
Yes.
We have a lovely lineup of speakers. We have a guest speaker from Toronto, Canada, Monica Myers, who is also Toronto's first fashion model with Down syndrome, and she's been over the last year and a half. She's worked for Toronto Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week, and a lot of other designers in Toronto. She's joining us to tell us her story. She's 14 and,
Wow.
very outgoing. And again, bringing a person like Monica here, which we've done over the years, is really to inspire our parents as well. Because here in Trinidad, we also have our own ambassadors,
Yes.
people like Kelly Simmons and Christy D'Souza and Surya. All of these young people now are young adults who have actually entered the world of work and are using their talents to also bring awareness locally to what we can do as Trinidadians and Tobagonians as well.
Yes, yes.
So,
As you spoke about parents, and locally, what advice before we wrap up would you give to parents who, are aware that their child is Down syndrome, or they have, seen signs, they've gotten the tests done and they realize, okay, they have Down syndrome. What advice would you give to them? Moving forward, understanding that their life can still happen for them, that, this is not a death sentence, this is not the end of the world. There is so much more that they can do.
I would say first presume competence. Don't let anyone else speak to you in a negative manner about your child.
Yes.
This is your child. The child has life, breath, and they have you as parents to open every single door possible for them. So believe in yourself, believe in your child, and then join the network.
Yes.
When you have a network with other parents who have gone through what you are going through, once you engage with them and you start the conversation, you are going to feel so much better, because then you're going to see for yourself what your child can achieve through the eyes of others. And also, we have a very vibrant WhatsApp chat group with our parents.
Okay.
And, people post anything. If their child isn't eating, or if their child, is not taking them on, they will put it in and say, does your child do this? What did you do if your child was late, is not speaking as much as you think that they should? And parents start to put in their things, what they did, what worked for them. How do you potty train your child? How if you go to the health center and you need to get a form filled out, who do you go to? And so, that network really does support.
Yes.
They do support each other. And then when we have our family workshops as well, and we get together one-on-one and, and face-to-face, then there's even more, socializing and conversations again, and sharing of knowledge and sharing of information. And you build a community that way, which is essential.
Okay, great. And just before we go, I know you have the conference to get ready for. Where can persons find you on social media?
We have a Facebook and Instagram page. We have a website as well. So Down Syndrome Family Network. Just type that in and it'll all pop up. Plenty of information there. And they have our contact information as well. We have a contact telephone number that they can call, or our Facebook page is extremely active. So if you post a message there, someone will respond to you within 24 hours.
Okay, great. Well, all the best today with the conference. Happy World Down Syndrome Day to you and the team, and all the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing this information as well with all your viewers.
Yes, thank you. We take a short break. When we come back, we have some more in store before we wrap up.